So the maritime industry, almost as certainly as much, if not more, than most other industries, is moving headlong into the modernization and digitalization of the industry. There are all sorts of reasons why this is happening, and I'm not going to go into the various drivers, but I really want to make clear how disruptive, in an evolutionary sense, that digitalization is. Digitalization is more than just making everything digital. I mean, I would observe that a bill of lading today looks pretty much like a bill of lading in, 1642, except today it's a PDF. And back then it was parchment and ink and feather. We all understand things that are digital. Digitalization goes a step further. I mean, consider this. Back in the old days, voice was carried on an analog network. Data was carried on a digital network. And then in the 1960s and 70s, we started to digitize voice. Well, so now we had digital voice and digital data. And then as packet switching networks evolved, we realized, hey, I can put my digital voice, my digital data on the same network. And then people started to realize, if I can put them on the same network, I wonder if I can start to build applications that merge voice and data. So in the 1990s, we start to see things like video conferencing applications on the internet and streaming services. As you know, today, the fact that you can get a TV show was not anticipated 30 or 40 years ago when we were first starting to build these type of networks. Maybe it was anticipated by some good futurists, but we didn't have the technology at the time. Today, what we have is super fast communication channels. We have sensors that are small and cheap. We have processors that are small and cheap. And we can now place these devices all over the place. I mean, now we're getting into operational technology, interfaces between the physical world and the digital world. And I, as the master of a vessel, looking at a dashboard on the bridge, can learn about the complete state of my ship. Not just things like my course, my heading, my speed, my rate of turn, all that kind of stuff. I can find things like stress levels on the hull. I can find tension on a mooring line. I can detect if a mooring line is starting to rot or weaken. If I am the harbor master at a big port, I have complete situational awareness of everything going on in that port. At any given berth, I know the water temperature, the speed of the current, the salinity, the depth. So imagine this plethora of information. But it now becomes incredibly important that that information be good, that it have integrity, validity, availability, all these characteristics of information that is really what needs to be our focus in what we call cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not about protecting computers and communication channels and the cyber assets. It's really still about protecting information. So the modernization and the digitalization is incredibly important, but now with the absolute and complete dependence on information, the cybersecurity becomes really the most important part of it. It requires that we have somebody on board a ship who is a cybersecurity technician or specialist. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you have, your chief information security officer on board every ship, but you need to have somebody on the ship that is aware of these things. Somebody who can differentiate a cyber attack from equipment failure from just an error. So the modernization is actually exciting. It's going to make a lot of efficiencies within the industry, but it is now going to have the single point of potential failure being the information. As we get into completely autonomous systems, then obviously this becomes even more important. So as we're building these modern digitalized networks, and we're trying to integrate information technology and operational technology, these networks, in addition to having all the information that we think we need to get a complete snapshot and situational awareness of our ships, our ports, what have you, We're building incredibly complex systems. And one of the significantly important parts is that part of the design of the network that's transporting all this information, we have to start with how are we going to protect it at the very beginning. You cannot build and design your network and then layer on cyber later on. First of all, it will not be effective, and cost-wise will not be efficient. You have to really do all of that at the same time. What's my network architecture going to look like, and how am I going to defend things?